Welcome to Evangelical-ish, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the American Evangelical Church, deconstruction, faith, and God's love through it all. Join us for these episodes live on our Evangelical-ish YouTube page on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 o'clock Pacific. Let's journey together.
Welcome into the Evangelical-ish podcast. It is so good to see everybody tonight.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul.
And I'm April.
And I'm Jeremy.
And big congrats today because Jeremy went over 100K followers. Bravo. And April over 50K.
Yeah.
You guys are rocking.
The little
baby.
engine that could.
Listen,
Well, I'm going to be stuck on 60 for the rest of my life, I'm sure.
it's a good day to be, a ginger. It is a good, it's exciting stuff. I got to 99, put out just a little video where I clipped, a video that had gained me a ton of followers, early on. I went from 20 to 40, overnight. And I clipped the front end of that where I ran into some guy at Walmart who recognized me and screamed at me you're, fake news or whatever. And I was and then after that I said, I have almost 20,000 new friends who tend to disagree or whatever. And then so I just clipped it right there and said, it's 99,000. I can't believe it. Guys, we're about to hit 100. I kid you not. I picked up, I think I picked up 4,000 followers in the last day. It's nuts. People have been absolutely incredible. So much love to the TikTok fam.
Congrats. And you're only, a few million behind Charlie D'Amelio now, right?
Yeah. Millions.
Well, welcome to the live stream. This is the show where we talk about being evangelical-ish and the journey of deconstruction, reconstruction of our beliefs and thoughts and values around our faith in Jesus. And I see people are already commenting in the live stream on YouTube. We love your comments. We're going to try to interact some with those tonight. So welcome, and we're so glad to have you guys with us. And so our first topic tonight is Beth Moore. Beth Moore has said, I can't take it anymore. She says the support of Trump and the lack of moral values in that support that she sees, she calls it the staggering disorientation of seeing Baptist leaders support Mr. Trump has caused her to leave the SBC, the Southern Baptist Conference. Moore was quoted by the Religious News Service today. There comes a time when you have to say, this is not who I am. I am still a Baptist, says Beth Moore, but I can no longer identify with Southern Baptist.
Amen, Aunt Beth. Come on, Auntie Beth. She's my
Jeremy,
girl.
You down there at Oklahoma, baby, with your
Yes.
Baptist church. You've got to have some thoughts on this one.
Oh man, brother, listen. It's. Let me back up. It's been the writing on the wall, right? She was adamantly against Trump. She was adamantly for social justice. She has stood in the gap so many times. She has fought for women's equality inside the conservative church. And she has, she has been just absolutely incredible in just taking on all comers. I mean, she has taken on all comers, from the John MacArthur's of the world on down to anybody else. And she has not batted an eyelash. She has not backed up a step. And her and Russell Moore have stood in the gap, and they have at times made me proud to have a former SBC heritage. That's where I came from, obviously now non-denominational. But, this breakup was coming. It was always coming for a while. We could see it on the wall. And the reason for that is because she was so outspoken about things that the SBC has been either awkwardly quiet about or actually awkwardly vocal about in the wrong direction. And so the Southern Baptist Convention loses, and Lifeway, which is owned by the SBC, her publishing company, now
it's a book publishing company.
Yes,
right?
yeah, and it's owned by the Southern Baptists. They lose their biggest cash cow for one, and listen, I don't think she batted an eyelash when she walked away either. I feel like this has been coming, and good for her. Good for her to step out, to stand against the system. And I think we're about to get, guys, I'm so pumped right now. We are going to get unhinged Beth Moore coming up soon. Y'all just get ready for that next book or Bible study, because she's going to dunk on folks. And I'm super excited about it.
Well, she's been one of the few voices. So my dad was actually ordained SBC, but beyond that, we left SBC like before I was ever born. So I was never really big in Southern Baptist, but Beth Moore, like I was a fan. I went and saw her in person when I was in my 20s. And there was something that she said that I could still remember word for word what she said. She was just talking about shame. And she said that shame is Satan's laughter in the form of a human emotion. And that line has just always stuck with me, that shame doesn't come from God. Which we know that, but like, that was just a really eloquent way of doing it. And she's always had just such a way with words, but I kind of lost touch with her. Like, I was never like a diehard Beth Moore fan, but I loved her, just, whatever. Didn't read like tons of her books. But I remember in 2016 when she first spoke out against, it was when the Access Hollywood tape came out. So in the primaries before, or maybe Trump, I don't know, he might have been it was before he was elected. When the Access Hollywood tape came out, she spoke out against Trump for, not only was that immoral sexuality, especially according to SBC, but it was also assault. He was bragging about assault. She has been very open about her, how she had been sexually assaulted and spoke out against it. And she just got hammered even back then for speaking out against Trump. And she saw a lot of these same, men in the SBC who went hard against Bill Clinton with his sexual immorality, who were silent or worse, defending Trump in that assault. I mean, honestly, when I saw that tape too, I was like, oh, Trump's done. Like there's no way Christians are going to support this. And then they did. And then it was just a continual like rock rolling down the hill. They just kept supporting him. And each time I'd like, surely this time.
And that was that was just weeks before the election. As soon as that happened, I thought, oh, he blew it. He totally blew it, which I mean, I was happy for. I was like, good. Right. Open mouth, insert both feet there, big guy. But like, I was shocked and dismayed. Now there's a lot to, as a poli-sci guy and who really loves politics, there's a lot to dissect there. I think Hillary Clinton also hurt herself quite a bit, and opened that door for him to have such a horrible moment and still win the presidency. But she stuck. Here's the crazy thing. She stuck with it, even though she caught all of that ridiculous backlash and all of that craziness. She stuck with it. Talk about going through all of the stuff that happened over the past, especially like over the past summer and the last several years, as racial tensions have come to just a fever pitch. Yep. She has been vocal about racial reconciliation and social justice. Her and Dwight McKissick both, who's a pastor from Texas, prominent in the SBC, a black pastor in the SBC, have spoken prominently and extremely vocally about the things that the SBC have been dead wrong on. But they have stuck by the SBC through the process. And then the SBC just continued to punch them in the face. Guess what? Yep. If you kick me 4 or 5 times in the face and say, oh, sorry, and then kick me again, and then, oh, sorry, and kick me again, at some point, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me kind of thing. And I think she just got tired of getting fooled, and she was done, and I don't blame her.
It's an interesting thing because I got invited to be a part of a panel discussion this last week, and they said, we want to talk about unity. We believe the word for 2021 is unity. And I was like, okay, guys, if that's the word, you don't want me in the discussion, because I think the word for 2021 is repentance. I think the church needs to repent. I don't think unity is the way. And so some may say, well, why does Beth Moore have to leave? And this is a season where I get a lot of messages about this on my DMs on TikTok and such of, when do I leave my church? When do I know I can't stay anymore? And that's, that's the breaking point that Beth Moore hit here. And Beth Moore and people like Rachel Held Evans have really done such a great service of enunciating well this process. And I always remember Rachel Held Evans' line from Searching for Sunday of leaving the church and saying, now who's going to make casseroles for us when we have a baby? And it's not an easy process. It is a grieving thing. I'm sure Beth Moore is not celebrating. No. I understand your celebration, Jeremy, but I'm sure it was agonizing for her. You're leaving family behind, but I do think it's a season where we are required to stand up and say, guys, this is not okay. Yeah. And if the pastor from the pulpit of our church is saying it is okay and that we should be voting for Trump, and which I think is a violation of the law, by the way, to do that from the pulpit, but that's me.
1,000%. Yeah.
Because it is a violation.
Because it's a violation of the law.
Okay. All right, good. I think there is a point where you have to say being silent is complicity to some really bad theology being taught to people.
It's why I'm on TikTok.
Yeah.
Because I sat idly by for so long and believed all these things, but was not vocal about them because I didn't want to step on toes. Listen, and don't get it wrong. I mean, don't get it twisted here. I am proud of Beth Moore to stand up. I am not happy that she had to leave the SBC. I'm devastated and heartbroken because of that, because the SBC cannot get out of their own way. They could be a global driving force for the gospel, for good, for change, through the cooperative program and all of the, listen, I just come from an SBC background, so this is very near and dear to my heart, but through the cooperative program and mission fields across the world, they are doing some really great things. But the problem is they stay in their own way all the time because they won't just stand up and completely denounce social injustice. They won't stand up and denounce misogyny in their churches. They will not walk away from 1860 Southern Baptist Christianity. They just won't do it. And because they won't do it, my heart breaks for them. I grieve for them, but I cheer when Beth Moore finds her own legs and walks away and goes, guys, you're wrong, and I'm going to do it without you.
Well, Beth Moore was always kind of controversial just existing in the SBC because they are very anti-women leadership in SBC churches.
Yes.
They believe very strongly in complementarianism, where it's like gender roles and women do not address men in a teaching way. And I don't know, I'm sure y'all heard of this drama, but a couple years back, she was speaking at a church on a Mother's Day on a Sunday morning. And SBC and John MacArthur, who's not even in the SBC, and like a bunch of other people got super mad about it and told Beth Moore, like John MacArthur in a sermon said, go home, Beth Moore.
Yeah.
And we're mad that she would speak at a church service on Mother's Day, that it went against God's word, because dare she be a woman?
Mm-hmm. My wife, of course, was a 2-term mayor of our city. And at one point in her mayorship, she contacted all the churches in town, and not just Christian churches, but of other religions as well, and said, hey, I want to come and talk about praying for our city. And some of the churches accepted. And she just found out this week from a pastor who's at one of the churches now that wasn't there when she came to speak, that there is a huge file of complaints that came in that they allowed my wife, the mayor of our city, to speak from the platform at that church.
Oh.
Isn't that sick? It is sick. I do want to, Micah, who is a friend of mine, he has a great TikTok page called Pondering Worshiper that everybody ought to check out, and hopefully we can help him grow that page. But he says, this is a comment on YouTube, and you guys can comment on there. He says, asking when it's time to leave your church is like asking when it's okay to leave an abusive relationship.
Listen.
It can be.
Yeah. Because think about it, and this is conversations I've had in my life, is when the things that I believe that I see in Scripture, and the things that I believe about the character of God, and the things that I believe as a follower of Jesus don't match the things that are being taught in the church or being lived up to in the church or in the bylaws of the church, at what point do you leave? At what point do you fight for change? I mean, those are hard questions. And listen, I'm not I'm not immune to that even today. You know, and it's difficult. There was also a question, Joy, or not a question, but a comment. Joy Kinzer said, she said, "Women across our country heard that. Go home."
Mm-hmm. And if these men aren't careful, that's exactly what women are going to do. They're going to leave the churches. I mean, that's why churches attendance in general is just dwindling in droves. People are leaving because people are asking questions. We're waking up to the misogyny and the racism and the hateful undertones that live in so many churches in America. And it's not all churches. There are good churches out there. Everyone likes to inform me of that. But we have to expose it and call it out. But there is this constant struggle of, do I stay? Is that helping my mental health? Is that helping my spiritual faith? Can I change it from within? Because not only is it like an abusive relationship, but you also mix in the fact of, is God proud of me for staying? Is God proud of me for leaving? And there's this whole like salvation and right versus wrong twisted into your decisions.
I get that a lot from people like, well, not all churches are like this or not. And that is true. But when I read about Jesus' critique of the religious system in the Bible, he didn't say, well, these Pharisees have it right, but these Pharisees over here. No, he spoke to the overarching spirit of what was happening. And sometimes in this season, I feel like all of us as evangelicals are responsible for this spirit of evangelicalism in the country. Yeah. And we have to speak out against it. And and sometimes that's going to mean we're going to have to leave the body. Because I actually think you should leave with honor and integrity. Don't stay and create division and conflict. I mean, you can go to your leaders and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Where are you guys on this? And if they are not where you are, then I'm a big proponent that you just say, okay, well, we just can't be here and we're going to leave. And you do it with honor and integrity. And you don't create division and strife in the church. You just go. But then when you do that, then I think all of us have to stand up and say, hey, this spirit of American evangelicalism, this Republican Jesus that we're worshiping, there's something seriously wrong, and not just wrong, but dangerous and damaging to people and extremely damaging to the gospel. And that's not okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, April.
No, you go.
Well, I was just going to say that's spot on. And I think it is tough though, because there are times when you see, in the core of a church or in the core of a group or an organization, you see the good and you see the things that could happen if the Spirit would stir or their hearts would stir and things would begin to change. And so it's, it's hard. And I think, I think it's just a really difficult position. And one I've found myself in before, one that I find myself in sometimes today is that push and pull. Do I always agree with everything that the church that I serve at stands for? Yeah. No. Do I differ on some things? Yes. And it makes it hard.
It's just that question of, if you want to stay and try to change it, great. But at one point, do I become complicit? With the toxicity that's in the church?
And that's the ultimate struggle, right? Is when do I quit becoming a fighter for change, and do I just become another, soldier in the army?
And I think, and we're out of time on this segment, but one thing that we probably need to talk about down the line, talking a lot with people who are in this sort of deconstruction of their faith and do I stay in my church or not, is what does reconstruction look like? And if the spirit of the church has gone awry, I know Jesus is still going to build his church because he promised us he would. So what does the church look like going forward? It's not, this is what I hate some about this, is we end up chucking the whole thing out, our faith and everything else. So my encouragement is like, you may have to leave that church, but don't let misrepresentation of God drive you from God. It can drive you from a church building, but find another space for a faith community. April and I are with a group that does some things online. Jeremy's got a church that's really trying to move where God is going in this season. So find that group and hang out with them. You don't have to chuck your whole faith.
And it does,
and one other thing, it is a really mournful decision too. It's okay for it to be hard and sad.
it also doesn't have to look like what we've been taught churches. The Bible says where two or three are gathered, find a community, even if it's just your family, find people that are like-minded. I found more spiritual, strong church moments going to Black Lives Matter protests over the summer than I had at my church for the last 5 years.
Wow.
So you don't have to go to a church building to find God. He is everywhere.
I do. I want to finish the segment with a really great comment. Clay Maddox commented, which, by the way, Clay and I grew up together in the same town. He showed up to my church on Sunday, which was awesome. It was so good to see him.
That's awesome.
And so anyway, for those who don't know, I serve as the worship pastor. So I'm just a guy hanging out. But anyway, he says it's hard finding the balance of I will never 100% agree with any church, and it's time to find a new home. It's a hard balance.
Yes, it is.
It is a hard balance.
So,
and I don't know the answer. But
yeah.
Before we move on, I just want to read Beth Moore's like slam dunk tweet that she did in December. Like, this was the one that everyone lost their minds over. And if you don't know Beth Moore, I just want to read it before we move on. I do not believe these are days for mincing words. I'm 63 and a half years old, and I have never seen anything in these United States of America I found more astonishingly seductive and dangerous to the saints of God than Trumpism. This Christian nationalism is not of God. Move back from it.
Amen.
And listen, she didn't even need all 240 characters or whatever to finish that
she's
up.
Just a baller. So go, Beth Moore. We stand.
We stand. So good. All right. Well, let's run to a quick break. And on the other side, more Evangelicalish. Are you loving Evangelicalish? Follow us to catch all the latest content and encouragement. You can check us out on TikTok by following @Evangelicalish or subscribe on YouTube by searching Evangelicalish. That's Evangelical with an ISH. And don't forget to catch our live streams each and every single Wednesday night on YouTube at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 Pacific. And now, back to the Evangelicalish podcast. Yes, that is right. I did record it and mid-roll it. I didn't live read it this week. It's so good. Who knew being prepared would feel so good?
Good for you.
That's amazing. All right. Our next topic tonight is also very controversial. If you guys are on Facebook, you've probably seen some very sensationalized things from your Christian friends about this. Or maybe it's just me. But the Equality Act is there are very strong opinions on both sides of this. And I have seen a lot of just really crazy things from Christians about it. Very sensationalized. But basically, if you don't know what the Equality Act is, I have done lots of research because I actually first heard about it. I mean, I knew about it from last year, but I first heard about it again because of all the backlash from Christians. And I thought, what on earth is in this Equality Act that, is worthy of this hate? So I did some digging. So basically it's basically adding to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to not only just include race, where it's an anti-discriminatory law that you can't discriminate for race, but they're also adding sexuality or sexual orientation and gender, that you can no longer discriminate against that. So I thought, okay, well, there must not be any religious institution exceptions in this, because why is everyone freaking out? There are religious exemptions. It's basically the same religious exemptions are in this bill as currently. So the only time that so basically it's public companies that could not discriminate, which basically means you can't fire someone for being gay or trans or whatever LGBTQ, or if you receive federal funding of any sort, you would not be allowed to discriminate. So people are mad, and I think one of the biggest pushbacks I've seen on it, one, you have the whole baker. Can an individual Christian turn down baking a cake for a gay wedding? And so with this law, they would have to bake the cake. if they're a public
Which they should
company.
do anyway, by the way.
Right. No, I totally agree. It's just a cake. I'm sure they've made cakes for like 3rd and 4th and 5th marriages. So, anyway, but the biggest pushback that I've seen is all around girls sports and allowing trans women playing girls sports. So identified male at birth, but transitioning to trans women. So yeah, and it's a very tough topic, but everyone thinks that all of these trans women are just like Michael Jordans out there, I guess, that are just going to come and wreck girls sports. But on the flip side, I talked about this on our TikTok today. People completely forget about trans males, so identified female at birth, transitioning to male, and that there's a trans male in Texas who dominated girls wrestling, because they wouldn't let him wrestle the boys because he was born identified female at birth. So anyway, the gist of it is people do not understand gender and sexuality, and they just want to point fingers. And I don't want grown men going into women's restrooms and harming my girls, which honestly, the biggest pushback I've seen from a lot of these people are from white males trying to protect girls. And I'm just tired of these guys thinking that we need protection. I played sports all through high school and college, and if a trans woman wants to play sports, please come play sports. Their lives, I have a friend who's trans, and she's told me like her whole life story. They literally go through hell, like their whole life before they transition, as they transition. It's a constant, they're constantly bullied and discriminated against, and whatever would make their lives a little bit better. I just feel like as Christians, we shouldn't discriminate. But anyway, it's very controversial. What do you guys think?
Well, I think it's really funny, like the cake thing, because it's like, I loved how conservatives bang the war drum, like, what was it, 2012, when that was like a whole thing in Kentucky, right? Like I guess a homosexual couple was wanting a wedding cake, and that whole story played out, and there was a bakery that refused to make a cake. Well, conservatives bang the war drum. Well, they're a private small business. They should be able to do what they want. They should get to do what they want, whatever. Well, then Twitter bans Donald Trump, which is also a private business. And it's like, but wait a minute, guys. You can't have it over here and not over there. Like, you can't just have your cake and eat it too. But I think it's a really interesting thing. I mean, listen, anytime we can make life more fair for everyone in our country, it's better. And so when it comes to hiring, when it comes to bakeries or public companies and things that are federally funded, nonprofits or different things like that, to make sure that their hiring practices are fair and equal, and everybody is valued in that process, and is not discriminated against when they're on staff or employed there. I think that's fantastic, because I mean, you would want people to just be treated well in those kind of situations.
When I heard Christians were losing their gourd over this thing, I sort of checked my emotions, and I didn't really know much about the Equality Act, but I just thought to myself, if Christians are going crazy against this, I'm probably for it. Because for one, I just find myself on the other side of these arguments so many times with the church now. But I truly believe in our culture, the evangelical voice in the civic arena is the least reliable voice out there. Yeah. They are the least trustworthy. And I think probably outside their own bubble, they are the least trusted voice out there. And so I just saw somebody put in the comment, like, look at Franklin Graham's statement on this. And so right away I can go, oh yeah, whatever Franklin Graham says about this is going to be nutball and hypocritical beyond belief. And so and of course it's about this is going to have catastrophic consequences for competitive sports, along with churches and faith-based nonprofits who will lose all protections to hire people who adhere to their biblical statements of faith. It is the slippery slope arguments that I've heard about everything since I was 5 years old, that if this happens, we're going to be oppressed and all of the crazy stuff. Guys, we can argue about the details of this. And I get some of the hazards of boys playing girls sports.
Now,
I get it. There's an argument to be made, but
I will say, so when we talked about talking about this, and I made sure that this was okay to disclose this conversation with her. So the athletic director at the school that I still adjunct coach at, I can't hang up my whistle. I just can't do it. I taught for a long time, and they were like, "You want to still coach?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I just can't do it. But the athletic director there is she's absolutely incredible. Was a collegiate golf coach at a large Division I school. Is a member of the LGBTQ community herself. And she said she is concerned about the implication that this will have on female athletics, because it will change some things, especially on it when you start talking about high levels. And so even her, as a member of that community, said that she feels like it could have negative impacts on female athletics. And so I thought that was a really interesting perspective. And I felt like she was one who absolutely had a right to speak there, and share her voice on it. She was like, oh, go ahead, Paul.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, and I want to hear April's take on this, but just, can we just start with human dignity? Can we just say the first thing we want is human dignity for everybody? Yes, there are details we can argue in this. And at the Olympic level, a transgender athlete wanting to compete on the female side has to pass certain testosterone tests and things like that. I just don't think it's going to end up being as big a problem as it's more of a smokescreen than a real issue. But can we just start with human dignity? Let's just start there.
Right. And I feel like it's one of those things of let's pass this law so we can stop discriminating. And if problems happen and trans women are just, taking over girls' sports, then let's address it at that point. But it's not even really an issue yet. Right now, we're just, we're screaming fire and there's no fire. It's the potential of a fire. But I don't even think it's that big of a deal, because people also, there's just such a misunderstanding when it comes to gender in general. Like, gender is a spectrum. And the fact that most trans women, they're going to have more feminine qualities anyway, by default. They might be on estrogen or hormones. They're going to be doing things to kick down the testosterone. So, the idea that it's just going to be just normal dudes out there is just not realistic.
I can't imagine there's a bunch of boys out there thinking, I can't wait to go play girls sports. And the case everybody's talking about, I think it's in Connecticut. Is that right? The 3 track females who were born assigned female are suing the 2 transgender females. And part of the argument is like they're going to take away women's scholarships at the college level. And the 3 girls suing, of the 3, 2 of them have Division I scholarship offers. The 2 transgender females do not have scholarship offers. So it's a little bit ironic.
Well, I know this is a super controversial issue, but I think that's the point, is that the conservative right Christian, they try to make it so black and white. This is evil. This is wrong. This is destroying America. When really these are people and humans that have a really deep gender dysphoria. They want to just live their lives in how they feel that they are and who they are. And just to completely discredit them and just to call them evil and satanic and not worthy of basic, the same rights as anyone is just, I wish we could just try to understand and actually do research before we make blatant statements. I also saw a girl it wasn't even a post about the Equality Act, but they always bring it around to that for whatever reason recently. But a mom friend of mine was going off saying that, oh, my 5-year-old daughter can go to the doctor and mutilate her genitalia without my consent as a 5-year-old.
Wrong.
I'm like, that is not, the misinformation campaign around this is just insane. Like that is not in the Equality Act. You can't, 5-year-olds cannot go to the doctor, which first of all, how are they getting there? Let's talk about that. But 5-year-olds cannot go to the doctor without their parents' consent and get a sex change. No kids are getting sex change. That's also a misconception. That doesn't happen until way, way later if they even do it. Moving on.
Well, I think, especially when it comes to the workplace, when it comes to, businesses and establishments and things like that, anytime we can end discrimination against anyone, we should do it, period. I do understand that the sports topic is complicated. There are people who fall on both sides of that argument, and I understand both sides. And I absolutely, like I said, I mean, that's why I made that phone call, was because I was like, I want to hear this perspective from someone who definitely gets it, versus me, white guy, right? Like I don't understand. And so, it was just interesting to hear that perspective, and so I think it is going to be an interesting conversation when it comes to athletics and things like that as we move forward. But as far as anything else, I think as far as anything else, like we need to be about equality, and we need to be about fairness, and we need to be about loving each other. Period.
Let's see. Love God, love your neighbor. Isn't that? Didn't somebody say that somewhere for us to follow at one point? Okay.
Oh,
Let's get back to that.
I guess I should pull this chat like out of the middle of the. Yes, you sound okay, Paul.
Why do we? Okay, thank you. Why do we like to scare ourselves so much? Why do Christians so want to claim oppression? It boggles my mind. And we're always like, oh, this is it. They're going to force us to do this, that, and the other thing. And I used to hear from pastors like, they're going to take away our not-for-profit status. And I would ask, well, did Jesus promise you a not-for-profit status when in the church? Where is that in the Bible that you're guaranteed?
Yeah, you're 501c3.
Yeah, if you feel like it's powerful enough to stand up for against the government, be willing to let it cost you.
The sermon on the 501c3. Yeah, that's.
I love to. It's just when you talk about an Equality Act, the initial reaction is, well, "What about my rights?
Yeah.
What about my religious freedom?"
Well,
it's not thinking about the fact that a group of people does not have equal rights currently.
But that's not how Jesus told us to even operate.
Right.
Jesus told us to be a servant of all. That the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Right.
Yep.
And so the first question we should ask is, what about them? And whoever them is, whatever conversation that we're having, what about other people? And if we begin to look at our worldview through that lens, we will be in better shape as a society. We'll be in better shape as a country. We'll be in better shape as a world. If we begin to ask the question, what about you, not me?
Yeah.
I love the memes that people are using, the sheep that are in the pen, and Jesus is carrying the one sheep, and the sheep have the sign that say all sheep matter, or he has a rainbow colored sheep, and they're like, no, we kicked that sheep out, and he's like, yeah, I'm bringing them back. You leave the 99 for the one. You don't say, well, we still got 99. They all matter, and so let's just let the one be in pain and be ostracized and be left out. No,
because
let's have human dignity for all.
Christianity is, and based on Jesus's parable there, Christianity is not about majority. It's just not. And so, because Jesus was never about majority. Like, I mean, he was always about the downtrodden, the oppressed, the broken, and so again, if we could begin to ask ourselves that question, what about you? And we teach that in Sunday school, don't we? You guys live your life with the joy principle. Jesus, others, you. You just remember that and you'll be so much better. And then at some point we go, Yodge, you, others, Jesus.
Now it feels like you
You
Trump, others, Jesus.
And then Jesus
added
loves
a
the
T.
little children, all the children of the world, except the transgender
Is
ones.
it Tyjo? Is it Tyjo now? It's Trump, you, Jesus, others.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even think I'd put Jesus second. I think it's Trump, you. I don't even know if others and Jesus are on there. I think Jesus is on there that they just use.
It may just be. It may just be. Sorry.
So true. Oh my God, it's so stupid.
Oh man. Okay, guys.
2025.
March
2024
4th did come and go. Thank goodness.
It did.
All right. Any other final comments on the Equality Act before we move on? Oh, by the way, the Baptist Standard also wrote an article about the Equality Act and basically said religious people are overreacting.
Yeah.
The Baptist Standard.
Yeah, they did. Well,
Yeah.
and that's the thing is that we need to step back and we need to go, is it better for everybody to just get along and be treated fairly? The answer is yes. And
Yes.
I mean, in every law, are there going to be things that, like, after we put it in place, there's going to have to be individual adjustments, things that we're going to have to take into account for because of different things through that process? Yes. But we need to set the standard for equality first.
Yes.
And then begin to make those adjustments.
You know, and one other point on this is transgender women suffer a lot of abuse.
Yeah,
and even in the LGBTQ community, they are somewhat ostracized. And so to me, reaching out to be inclusive to this group is just such an amazing thing. And just, I want the Franklin Grahams of the world to know, like, this next generation of Christian kids, they're not going to be here. They are going to be affirming and accepting. It is an affirming generation that's coming, and they are rejecting outright the idea that we don't accept LGBTQIA plus people in the church. Mm-hmm. And so, and that whole attitude seems to me to be changing so fast, even in the church. Can we just let this one go? If it's a battle we've lost, but the truth is we're just coming around to where God's heart is on this, and let's just let it happen and stop trying to cling to the past.
And you're not losing your religious rights. You're just losing your right to be a bigot.
Are we just saying, like, you'll pry Romans 1 from my cold dead hands? Is that the deal?
They cling to that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Yes, mid-roll time. And we'll be right back. Are you loving Evangelical-ish? Follow us to catch all the latest content and encouragement. You can check us out on TikTok by following @Evangelical-ish or subscribe on YouTube by searching Evangelical-ish. That's Evangelical with an ISH. And don't forget to catch our live streams each and every single Wednesday night on YouTube at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 Pacific. And now, back to the Evangelical-ish podcast. Yes, welcome back into the Evangelical-ish podcast. And man, I tell you what, my favorite time of the week, becoming my favorite time of the week for sure, is getting to hang out with April and Paul and all of you amazing folks on YouTube, on the live stream each and every single week. And so anyway, my favorite segment.
Can I mention one of the comments on the YouTube page that I'm loving here?
Oh, yeah.
This is from Lisa. She says, Jesus didn't come to condemn, but the church has decided it's their job to do that. So.
Oh, that's so true. Just
we quote John 3:16 a lot. We rarely quote John 3:17.
Jesus loves everybody, but we're the judge and the jury.
That's right. Yeah. Jesus said, love your neighbor. We'll be the judge of that. Yeah, that's really good. I also, Jill Ann West says people are addicted to the haterade. That's a word I love. Is haterade. Yeah.
I love it.
The haterade. Yeah. They're taking them haterade baths. So sorry, I'm 12. All right. So I love every single week at some point I say something so ridiculous. Paul just like continues to like do whatever he's doing, and April like tries to hold it together like, you idiot. Like it's my favorite.
I feel that little laugh.
Yeah, no, you give me that smirk like you're real dumb. No.
Well, I didn't.
Jeremy, do you need some affirmation, brother? You're doing
I
good,
affirm
man.
you.
No,
You're doing good.
No.
You're doing good.
Yeah. You guys got any of those compliments in there? Or, No, it's not funny. So definitely my favorite time of the week doing the live stream. Didn't know if I was going to make it tonight, and so glad I am. But also,
we're glad you're here, Jeremy. We're
thanks.
Glad you're here. You're awesome.
Love to you guys as well. I listen. So out of my favorite time of the week, my favorite segment of the week is this one right here. It is TikTok comment of the week. TikTok comment of the week.
Haterade.
We need a theme song, don't we?
We do.
Little jingle.
Yeah.
We'll work on that.
Who's been sipping on the haterade? TikTok comment of the week. Hey.
I saw Rachel Spears in the comments earlier, and she has a song she sings on TikTok about things evangelicals said this week or something like that.
That reminds me.
That was great.
We can get her to sing one for us.
That reminds me of Jess Eaton. It was like she does this little jingle thing to some of her videos.
Yes, I know it. I've got it memorized. I'll like randomly say it. Things that you say that are racist, even though you don't think so.
Yeah, that one. I love that so much.
I'll just like randomly sing it now.
Oh,
Yep.
Anyway, so this is the part where the show comes off the rails and we talk about ridiculous things that people have said to us this week on TikTok. Again, congratulations, April, hitting 50K. Congratulations to Paul for getting back on the For You page.
No longer shadow banned, at least for this last video.
I got one video on the For You page.
And hey, much love to my base as well. We talked about it earlier. Went over 100K. That was super exciting, guys.
That's awesome.
It's super exciting. So, anyway, all right, April, what do you got this week?
Okay, so for context, this is actually like not a super hateful one to me, but it just was funny. For context, I made a video about my mom on International Mother's Day, International Women's Day, and basically people are asking like, well, how does your mom respond to your deconstruction? So I just made a little video kind of telling her about it. And in the video, I show pictures of my mom with me at Black Lives Matter protests. And I got this comment that said, lost me at BLM, terrorist organization. But sounds like a great mom. You're very lucky.
Oh my gosh.
I was just like, your mom's a terrorist, but she sounds great.
Your mom, that's pretty good.
Comments from the affirming racist.
Oh,
I like it.
Man.
Lost me at BLM, but your mom still sounds great.
Oh, that's really funny. But oh my gosh.
I know, like, are you saying my mom's a terrorist, but she's still cool?
Listen, your mom's a domestic terrorist, but great. Like, I'm glad she supports you.
But you're so lucky.
You're so lucky to have her.
Listen, I mean, some moms show up to baseball games, others show up to terrorist rallies. It just is what it is. Oh, that's terrible. That's ridiculous.
Anyway, all right, Paul, what was yours?
Tribute. I did my For You page video that I did today was about Christians who are upset about Mr. Potato Head and Dr. Seuss being canceled, and I made a list of cancel culture things that Christians have tried to cancel in my lifetime.
That was a very thorough list. It
is a voluminous list, and I asked people to comment to add, and they've been adding tons. But I had one guy called Whiskey Dick who
I'm so immature. I'm sorry.
He did 2 stitches to prove me wrong.
April just lost it.
I just was very caught off guard. And
so then I did the famous, now I'm going to duet the stitch going against my video and corrected and just said it's incredible how Christians are trying to justify their cancel culture history. And so I duetted it, and I sent Whiskey Dick a message saying, hey, check it out. I came back at you. Let me know what you think. And here is his reply. One of the many problems with your video is I'm not a Christian, you dipshit. I'm an atheist. To which I responded to him, well, you sound an awful lot like a Christian to me. I got to tell you.
That's so weird.
And maybe
what does
that
he
could be
think you do?
That's so classy. What does he think you do?
Oh my gosh. Well,
So I do love it when, people, I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago when people are like, why don't you read your Bible or go do your research? Or they
Paul,
just
now I
come
got to
straight
put
with
explicit on this episode.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, April, you'll be super proud of me though. I actually got the episode number correct, and I put the title on it too.
I noticed that.
Nice.
I was gonna
Yes.
compliment it, but we ran out of time. Good job.
What's your best comment this week, Jeremy?
You guys got any comments in there? I don't know why it keeps coming back to that.
Do we really have to put explicit on the episode now?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Is
Do
this
we?
Not safe for children, I guess.
We already have it not safe for children, so I think we're
Okay.
okay.
All right.
Right?
Yeah, just because we knew we were going to be talking about some heavier topics, so I think we did it an 18 plus.
Okay.
So we should be good.
And maybe not watch with your Christian relatives.
Or I don't know if we did or not. You know what? We should probably go back and look.
If Whiskey Dick is going to keep commenting.
Stop saying that. I'm gonna lose it. I really
Hey, listen.
I need a moment.
I shouldn't say that. It's one thing. It's one thing to say it.
We're
It's
already explicit, so.
one thing to say it. It's another thing to have it. So,
Jill Ann says his name is probably actually Alcoholic Richard. So
True.
go, Jeremy. What's your comment of the week?
Yeah, okay. So mine was actually a video that got stitched at me. I did a video about Tony Hudson, the IFB preacher who was like, talking about the wife-run pastor.
Oh, that pissed me off.
Yeah, yeah. Also, Kelly Kraut commented on there, and she was like, "So triggered right now." And so it was bad, and I just came back and I was like, obviously I just talked about that. Your misogyny's showing. You should put that back, and just called that out. And so lady stitches me, and she's like, now listen, I know this is probably going to hack a bunch of people off, and anytime. And she just she had those vibes, you know what I'm saying? There was just those vibes of she was looking to make everybody mad. And she's like, I know this is probably going to make everybody mad, but I don't care. I'm a Baptist woman, and I just got to say some things about this guy's video or whatever, and the Tony Hudson clip. And she's like, my man doesn't tell me what to do, goes off into this whole thing. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. You ain't making me mad. And she's like, yeah, but you liberal lefty Christian man, just hammers me. You're wrong too. And you're both the same. That's what she said. She landed that me and Tony Hudson are both wrong. And we're both, heretics or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
And
I hate when people try to flip the coin of you call out something that's actually racist or misogynistic, and they're like, oh, you're causing division. You're not any better.
Yeah. Whitley said, RUNNOFT. Yeah. Run off. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. It was just, man, it was pretty crazy. So it was this whole video. And then I went on and commented, and I was like, well, because she was like, you're progressive Christianity or whatever. And so I just went in and commented. I was like, hey, I appreciate your video. However, I don't think me calling misogyny out from the pulpit is anything other than just Christian, period. Don't need a disclaimer in front of it. Just need Jesus to say this was bad, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, you labeled yourself progressive. And I said, when did I do that in the video? And she goes, well, it's in your hashtags. And I was like, well, also in the hashtags were Trump and IFB, and I don't identify with either one of those. So it was just the logic logic people use, like these gymnastics they use to like peg you into a corner. Because here's my thing is, and I talked about this on a video tonight. I don't think my Christianity is anything. I don't think it's disclaimer anything. I think it's just Christianity the way it's laid out by Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
I come back at people with that one a lot, because a lot of people say, "Oh, you progressive Christians," and I'm like, no. I have, people I respect who claim that title of progressive Christian, but I'm just not going to let myself be labeled, because I think people just want to be able to slap a label so they can, not have to consider your content. So I try to avoid those labels, even though I do think Revelation is progressive. True. But I just don't want to be labeled.
It's usually
it's too simple.
It's almost like the nice version of hate when they call me a progressive Christian instead of just Satan.
But see, and that's what, instead of just Satan, well,
or the Antichrist.
The Antichrist. I loved the video you did where you like leaned out and the antlers were behind you.
The horns
was so good. I was like, usually I'd kind of know where you're going. And then that one, I did not see that coming. I thought that was
one
really
actually
funny.
happened on accident. I just happened to be, my husband and I got away for the weekend in a little cabin, and I was doing that video like right at that wall, and then I noticed, kind of looks like I have horns, and I was like, oh, yes, I'm giving myself horns.
I love the videos that write themselves, right?
Yes, yeah. I was like, yes, it was beautiful.
Wow. But no, I agree, Paul. I think. I think the thing that we have to remember is, because somebody asked me in my Q&A feature now that TikTok does, which I think is super cool. And somebody said, have you always gone against the grain of Christianity, of normal Christianity or something like that, which I understood the question and I really appreciated the question. Mm-hmm. But I said, what's interesting is I don't feel like I'm going against the grain of Jesus Christianity. I feel like I'm going against the grain of American Christianity. And what's super sad is that the Jesus that we see in the Bible is now considered radical for some reason in our society, which makes zero sense to me. So I don't think being a Christian is radical. I don't think it's progressive. I think it's just following Jesus and being a Christian, and people want to slap labels on it because it makes them uncomfortable, and they can justify it if they can put a label on it. To be mean and mad and hate you. If I can slap a label in front of the word Christian, I don't just have to identify you as a Christian. And you know what?
You're one of those Christians.
Those Christians.
Yeah.
I
get that too. Or the ones that'll just like, I'll pray for you. A little passive aggressive, like Christian version of cussing you out. Yeah. I'll pray for you.
And we have so sanitized Jesus. He was radical. He was hated by the Franklin Grahams of his day, and I think those guys would hate him again today. He was a radical figure, loving people that the religious and political establishment said don't deserve to be loved.
Right. And when I look at Jesus, what he did when he walked the earth, and I look at society today, do I think Jesus would be with the religious leaders that are condemning LGBTQ and saying, you don't get a seat at the table, you're not welcome here, you dirty, rotten sinner, don't come to us? Or would he be so radically inclusive and loving that he would sit with them and go to their house and eat dinner with them and break bread with them? Yeah. That's what I think Jesus would do. Yeah,
I wrote a novel about what I imagine Jesus would be like walking around in Fresno, California today. Mm-hmm. And it really spurred from in 2008, this was before my wife was mayor, there was a Defense of Marriage rally on the steps of our city hall. And I was watching the, report on it on the news that night, back when we used to have TV news and all that stuff. And they were showing the mayor and a couple of our mega church pastors up on the stage at City Hall, talking about defense of marriage, because we had Prop 8 at that time going on in the election to ban gay marriage in California. And then they did this cutaway shot of this police tape, that yellow do not cross tape. Mm-hmm. And the reporter said, and there were protesters from the local gay pride group or whatever the name of the group was, and it cut away and showed they were behind this do not cross tape. And I just remember, as much as I can say God spoke to me, I felt in my spirit just God saying, if I were there, where would I be? Would I be on the stage, or would I be behind that do not cross tape? And I think without question, he was leading me to the answer of I'd be behind the tape with those people, not these. And I just really believe that's who Jesus was. He would hang out with the ones evangelicals believe he should not hang out with, and the ones that we don't want to get too dirty hanging out with.
Absolutely.
That's what it's all about.
Amen.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap it up for tonight, for sure. And I think we're going to keep this one right at an hour, kids. So we did a good job tonight. Look at us go.
Look at you, Jeremy.
But yeah, it's been a ton of fun, for sure. And I think, we're just going to continue to enjoy this community that we see building, and that we're so blessed by each one of you who are on right now, and who follow us on TikTok, and who connect with us, and who cheer us on. I mentioned this week earlier in a video, I can't, I think I can speak for both of you when I say, the platform has never been about me personally. It's always been about the community and building each other up. And so that is what Evangelical-ish is. And we're grateful for those of you who are in the Evangelical-ish community, and we love you, and we're grateful for you.
Yeah. And if I could add something to that, Jeremy, I had somebody this week even saying, my beliefs have changed so much. I'm not sure what I believe in the Bible anymore. I'm not sure, how do we know we're not going off into some heresy somewhere? What keeps us from going into believing something we shouldn't believe? And my answer was like each other. All we can do is like cling to each other and say, this is what I'm feeling. What do you think? And I think it's what the early church did. They didn't have scripture anymore. So they were just like, what do you see happening? What do you see happening? What do you see God doing? And I think that's a bit of what we're doing here, guys, is like, okay, we're going to find each other, and we're going to cling to each other, because it is a little bit of a rocky ride. So I'm glad to have you guys to hang out with, and the people that are commenting and tuning in tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. And wherever you fall on the spectrum, whether you are, I know even the three of us fall in different spots, in the construction, deconstruct, whatever you want to call it, faith journey. We all fall in different spots in that place. And you know what? You're welcome here, and you're safe here, and we love you. And and so anyway, April, any last thoughts before we take off tonight?
No, I'm very thankful for this community too. My husband and I were talking about it, that even though the pandemic kind of shut everything down and we lost a physical community, like with our church and whatnot, I feel like it's weird, but I feel like I've just more than made that up through TikTok and through this group, and I just didn't know how many people were like me out there until I started talking about it. And then I still get message, weekly of people that are in the exact same boat we are and don't feel like they have an outlet or a place to talk about it. And so I think it's awesome that we can talk about it. We don't have to be told, don't ask those questions anymore. Let's ask them and let's discuss it.
Yeah, that's good.
Super cool.
So, well, all right, friends, we appreciate you tuning in. We will be back next Wednesday night. And until then, you guys love God, love people passionately. No strings attached. And we will see you next week.